Hey everyone, welcome back to another Fortnite Save the World questions video. I always pick these questions from the previous questions videos, so if you have one, leave it in the comments. This one is about the build limit, and a lot of people struggle with this issues without knowing why. Well, this question is divided to 2 or 3 parts. First, let me tell you what is the build limit is. But before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe if you are enjoying the content. And don't forget to use code Larsis in the item shop if you want to support me, helps me a lot. And without further ado, let's get started. Every base has a number of structures you can build. For example, let's say Stonewood build limit is 1000. So, you can only place 1000 structures, and after that, you can't build anything. And the game always give you a warning like this when you are close to the limit. And that's why I always advise anyone building for Storm Shield defense or endurance, not to overbuild the home base or any amplifier till finishing the whole base. Because you may don't have enough structures to build the last amplifier. And it's so annoying to go back to each build you finished and start removing the extra parts you added. I'm not saying don't add any extra. You can add as much as you like. But be reasonable while doing that. And add extra only if you need to. Because I see a lot of people doing that when they are building for endurance. They overbuild every single build and they reach the build limit even before they build half of the amplifiers. And here comes another question. I built everything exactly like you, but still, I can't finish my last 1 or 2 amplifiers. Or you have around 300 structures left, and I only have like 10 or 20. And the answer is, it's because of the extra traps. Yes, I know, a lot of you are confused right now. Because, what do traps have to do with the build limit? Simply, traps count as structures too. For example, if you have a 100 structures left to reach the limit, you can place a 100 structure only, a 100 traps only, or 50-50. And what happen is, people add extra traps everywhere while building, without knowing that this will ruin the build limit. I saw someone added traps with the healing perk for every block off structure. And when I asked why, he said why not, I have traps, and it will help if the husk targeted the block offs. But of course he didn't have enough structures to build his last 2 amplifiers and twine peaks. So, if you are confused, let me simplify all of that. When you are building your base for endurance, be reasonable, don't overbuild anything till you finish the whole base. And note that you don't have to reach the limit. Because I saw some people think of that. But it doesn't matter, the limit is just to prevent you from overbuilding. Because if there's no limit, you can simply cover the whole map with traps and structures. And you can finish any endurance easily without the need of building your survivor squads or leveling up your traps. But let's say you need more traps or block-offs for an amplifier or 2. Maybe one of your amplifiers is bugged and need an extra block-offs to force the smashers to follow the main path. Or you need extra damage traps at some point because your traps' damage or durability are low. Simply after you finish building everything, let's say you have 300 structures left. Check where you need more, then add what you need within the limit. And again, do not add anything extra before finishing the whole base. Because it's so annoying and boring to go back and remove the extra things you added. And most of the time you won't remember them, believe me. And here comes another question. Why I don't pass the build limit, aka negative base? It's easy anyway, and I can add as much structures and traps as I want. First, let me explain what negative base is. As I mentioned before, traps count as structures too. But when you reach the build limit, you can still add traps even if it shows you 0 structures left. Yes, you can't place structures, but you can place traps as much as you want. But it's not simple as you think. Let me give you an example to explain this more. Let's say you have a 150 structures left, and you need to build a 100 walls with wall traps on them. But you can't, because this will cost a 200 structures, and you have only 150. Here's what people do to pass the limit. They place the 100 structures first, then place the traps later. And as I mentioned, when you reach the limit, you still can add traps. So after adding the first 50 trap, the limit is now 0. But still you can add the other 50 traps. So, you added 50 structures after the limit. So, the limit become minus 50 instead of 0. And that's why we call it a negative base. Now some of you think it's not a big deal. And actually, you can do more than that. You can finish the whole build first without adding any traps. You can add as much structures as you want. Like covering every single thing with structures to add traps on them later. Even if you used all your limit for the structures only. And after that, you added the traps. For a moment, that sounds good. Because more traps, means more damage, means easy win. That's right, but there's something you need to consider before doing that. To be able to edit something in your base or change anything, you need to reset the limit to 0. For example, if you need to change the loop bridge or edit the block-offs for an amplifier in your base. Because as you know, in Save the World, bugs are a common thing when it comes to endurance. And you always need to change and edit your loop bridges and block-offs. Especially for Twine Peaks, the most bugged base in Save the World. So, when you destroy the loop bridge to build the new one, you won't be able to. Because you passed the build limit, remember? So what to do? Well, it depends. Let's say your base is a -50. So you need to destroy 50 structures to reset the limit to 0. Then change what you need to. And if you need more 5 structures, for example, for the new loop bridge, you need to sacrifice 5 other structures. Doesn't sound that bad for you? Do you remember when I said some players use all the limit for structures only then add traps later? Imagine how negative is these bases. Like -1000? Or 2000? Just imagine you need to destroy a 1000 structures just to edit a single wall or floor. And in that case you need to destroy the whole base, just for a simple edit. Now you see what I mean. And that's why I never recommend passing the build limit unless you know what you are doing. A lot of people do that, but within range. Like I used to do that in my alt account. Since my durability was so low already. So I covered the spawn for 2 amplifiers with drop traps. It was like a -100 base, not a big deal. And I connected these 2 spawn covers with only 4 structures. So all I needed to do is, destroying these 4 structures. And that didn't just reset my limit, I already had a 100 structures left to use. It looks like a simple thing, and it is. But first, you need to know what you are doing. Because I saw a lot of people telling the new players to do that. But they didn't tell them what they need to do when they want to change something. And this mostly happens in Twine Peaks. Because for the other bases, Stonewood for example, you won't need to pass the build limit. Only in Twine because it's the hardest for now. And it requires high traps damage and durability ratios. I saw a lot of people had to destroy all their bases because of that. Imagine how hard it is. Like you missed something while building and you need to change it. Good luck, rebuild everything. I know I made it scary to pass the limit, it's not. You just need to know how to control it first. So overall, build wisely, pass the build limit as much as you want if you need to, like for a mats grinder or something. But make it easier to reset it. Like pass the limit with the lava shield or the spawn cover for example. So it's easy to destroy and rebuild again. Not like the main tunnel, especially if it's a complicated one. And that's it. Don't forget to use code Larsis in the item shop if you want to support me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, see you in the next one.